even when we're in the middle of the market, buying and selling and trading. And that hour, that part of our life is not just when we come into the masjid. And when we go out of the masjid, we do anything and everything. Okay? So we are Ploppy one Muslim. You're on the streets, okay, you've got no hat on your head or anything like that. You come into the mosque, you go for the box, you put your hat on, you mind your language, Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khair, how are you, everything like that. You see a pound in that thing, you never put it in your pocket, you say, Sheikh, where do I put this? You put it in the box or leave it there. You finish your mosque, you go out, you take your top hat off, you go outside, swearing, effing and beffing, lying and cheating, filling in false forms for the DHSS, cheating your brother in business, harsh to your wife and whatever. You see £10 on the floor, I think, well, going to Hajj with money that I got from a false insurance claim from my car and whatever, but at least I'm doing Hajj. This won't do. We cannot be like this. This is mocking the teachings of Islam more than people who draw funny cartoons about the Prophet. Okay? And it's worse when ulama and teachers of Islam are quiet about this. We should be a bit more courageous. And if we lose our posts over it, so be it. Because people, the committee, if they want to behave like Saddam's, then Allah will punish them severely and wipe away all of their hasanat, if that's what they're doing to their ulama. If you have these petty committee people who will decide, we will determine what type of Islam. Yes, if it's Maulana is young, he's 17 and he doesn't know anything or whatever, and committee are 50, 60, so of course they can't just let Maulana say whatever he wants. He's just 17. What else? What is his? He's a hafiz, but what else is he going to know at 17? But let's just say Maulana isn't like that. Let's say Maulana is also at 30 and 40, whatever, and is educated and whatever. Committee doesn't allow, has no right to tell Maulana what to do. Yes, they can advise him. Maulana, maybe we shouldn't say things like this. Maybe we should concentrate on this. But Maulana has the ilm. The committee are jahil. Maulana has the ilm. Committee is jahil. And when Maulana, and I'm not talking about this mosque at all, this is just a common problem we've had for 20, 30 years. Maulana wants an extra little raise. Maybe Maulana has been greedy, so we remind Maulana, Prophet doesn't live simple, but maybe Maulana has not been greedy. Maybe Maulana has 2 extra children since the last time he increased his pay. Funny, because if Julie or Jack, Peter and Paul came into this mosque for anything, we'd make sure they were not £5.75 an hour minimum wage. We'd give them £10, £12 an hour, £15 an hour. If someone came to my house to teach my children 1, 2, 3, ABC, £20 an hour. But Maulana, £3.50 an hour, don't ask more than that, don't be greedy. When we have that type of respect for our Maulanas, or lack of respect, it reflects on what type of respect we have for knowledge, Allah's knowledge. And if we don't have respect for Allah's knowledge, because we don't have respect for the people of Allah's knowledge, and khalas, why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honour us with respect? Okay? When we have the respect for Allah and all that is connected to Allah, subhanallah, who knows what can happen? Okay? So we try to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying to slowly nurture in our heart that He is with us. He is here. He is with me. When I'm making dua, Allah says. When I'm standing in front of Allah says, Allah. We may be able to do this for a few minutes and then forget. Not a problem. As soon as I remember, I'll try again. We may do it for only the few times that we're in the mosque. Not a problem. I'll start slowly and steadily when I go out of the mosque as well to inculcate this habit. This is why one of the ways that the Sunnah does it, he says, learn these Sunnah du'as. Eating, drinking, going into the house, out of the house, in the mosque, out of the mosque, in the toilet, out of the toilet, when husband and wife come together, just before they come together, right? Saying this dua, this dua. The idea behind this is that we bring Allah to mind at every point in our lives so that consistently we can remember Allah. But what happens is, sometimes they just become words we say. Okay? And even though the best way is to make a dua where your heart is in agreement with your tongue. But sometimes to only make, sometimes you see them in Hajj. You go to Hajj and you've got this book, all right, behind the reciter of the du'as, and Allahumma, Allahumma, and then you reply. And we don't even know what some of us say. You know what? Better to make one du'a in English, okay, where hudur al-qalb, with the presence of heart. I don't know any sunnah du'as, I don't know Arabic, and I've come to a house and already the eyes are weeping, right? And maybe the words aren't even coming out properly, but the words are in the heart. It's just not. That type of du'a is better than 1,000 empty du'as. However, the Muslim does strive, because remember we started with the sunnah, the Muslim does strive to join the two, so that we can use the Prophet's words in du'a whilst knowing what it means in the heart, so that the heart can be exactly like that. But sometimes, where we can't get it right, just local language will do. And sometimes we try harder to learn the Arabic Sunnah du'as, or Quran du'as. Okay? But not just empty du'as all the time, or empty prayers. كَأَنَّكَ تَرَى. And then, inshallah ta'ala, what I'd like to do next week, I'd like to spend a whole lesson on this last bit. Tell me about the hour. Angel says, tell me about the hour. The one who's questioned knows no better than the questioner. And then tell me about its signs. I'd like to talk about the signs of the last day, the major signs and the minor signs, and how تغير الحال, things will change, be topsy-turvy. And because it's worth mentioning that, because many of our scholars have said, out of all of those 50, 60 odd minor signs, and there are about 10, 12 major signs, many of our scholars have said nearly all, if not all of the minor signs have already come to pass. Okay? So it means we are just round the corner from that time and day. That doesn't mean now that we sell our houses and our property and we go to Clapham Common and say the end is nigh, the world's doom comes upon us. It means that we need to just get a bit more serious with our lives, and we'll spend a lesson on that, inshallah ta'ala. We'll have no questions today because I have to get to another place, inshallah ta'ala. We'll start off with questions for next week, if there are any. Jazakumullah khairan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He brings into our heart Allah's qurb, the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He brings into our hearts some of the glimmers and the anwar of ihsan, the lights and the rays of ihsan, to worship Allah as though we see Him, and though we may not see Him, that we know that He sees us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He keeps our iman firm. He gives us iman kamilan, and yaqeen thabitan, and lisan dhakiran, and qalb shakiran, and ilm nafi'an, and rizq halal and tayyiban. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bring our hearts together. Allahumma alif bayna qulubina wa asli dhata baynana wa ja'alna min ar-rashidin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana wa fil akhirati hasana wa qina adhaban nar. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin.